pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Opening prayer.
Heavenly Father, we come before you. We thank you for this opportunity to gather together to plan for the city of Ripon and for the future of the city. We thank you for all that you blessed it with and how richly you've rewarded it. And just pray that you would give wisdom here tonight as decisions are made and plans are made, that the city may continue to grow and prosper. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Could we all please remain standing and just have like a 30-second bow your heads for the disaster that we had in Vegas past week? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Lisa, roll call.
Councilmember Daniel DeGraff.
Here.
Jake Parks.
Here.
Leo Zuber.
Here.
Vice Mayor Mike Rastuccia.
Present.
Mayor Dean Euchre.
Here. This public discussion this time is provided to the public to address the city council on items not on the agenda. If you desire to speak, please address Mr. Mayor, and upon being recognized, come forward to the podium and state your name and address before proceeding to your subject matter. Seeing nobody, close public discussion and call for the approval of minutes.
So moved. Whoops.
Second.
Where are we at? Oh, I gotta hit the vote. Gotta get Richard. Passes with 5-0. Approval of the agenda is posted or amended.
I got a couple to pull from the consent calendar. I'd like to pull item 1.3A and 1.4C.
Mike? You got it?
And I want to pull when you're ready. You ready? No. Okay. 2F, 2G, and 2H, please. On the consent calendar. Oh, excuse me, 1.2.
Oh, I was going to say.
1.2 F, G, and H.
Okay, 1.2F, 1.2G, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, with that, we'll call for a vote for the balance.
I'll move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Where?
Waiting for Jake, okay. Passes with 5-0. Okay, Leo, or should we start on Mike?
We do the consent calendar first and then do something else. Now we approve the consent calendar as amended, correct?
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
It's like being retrained every time. And so I guess we'll start with Mike with 1.2F since it's first.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So let's start with I have the same question on all of them, but let me go one. So 1.2F, the, well, I don't know where my notes are on these doggone things, but what is the balance, the maturity date, and the interest rate?
The outstanding principal balance on the 2006 bonds is about $500,000, and the maturity rate is, or date is 2033.
Do you know what the rate is?
4%.
Okay, so that's on the one with the $382,000 balance.
That's correct.
Okay. When's the maturity?
2033.
2033.
Well, it can't be, because if the balance is $500,000 and we're paying $200 in principal with payments, we pay the payment every 10 years?
Oh, I apologize, that's not the correct amount due.
Okay.
That's the payments made in the year, the fiscal total. It's probably about 6.4 million.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you.
And the total payments in a year are $500,000? Okay.
And then G, which would be the 239 payment?
2012,
Okay.
there's probably about 2.5 million left on that one.
2 point what?
2.5,
Okay. And when does that mature?
2027.
2022. That all now makes sense. And how about the last one, H?
Last one matures in 2025. And it has about about 1.6.
Okay, that all makes sense now. Thank you very much. Do we want to wait and approve these later, or what do we do?
We can do them all when due is done.
Okay.
So
Thank
Leo,
you.
1.3A.
My only question about this one is, how much are we getting for this Safe Routes to School? And when do we think we're going to actually do it?
So we're getting $493,000, and we're anticipating construction to probably start in February or March of next year, by the time we get out to bid.
And is this the one that runs down
Calhoun.
Calhoun? Okay. Thank you.
And then 1.4C.
Yeah. Gotta find my. I'm not sure I understand what's going on here with this.
How do I clarify that?
Well, I am assuming from what I've read that Diamond Pet Foods wants to expand.
Correct.
Why are we involved with that?
There are two layers to a project like this. One is to get the approval from the city of Ripon, which they got approval for their site permit back when they developed the first 3 lines. And then the second is to do the environmental review of that. We were the lead agency for environmental review last time. They've now applied to bring on a 4th line. They have 3 lines running now. They've now applied to bring on a 4th line. And they need to introduce new odor reduction technologies in order to accomplish that. And so the Air District, which was, as a state agency, doesn't act as the lead agency for purposes of environmental review. It leaves the city of Ripon to do that, as we did last time.
Okay, now I'm going to branch off. Go
Yep.
2 things. One, does that mean that someplace down the road, we're going to be in the position of deciding whether to accept our own environmental study? Does that make sense?
City Council has to, as the body that approves and certifies the environmental document, has to make the findings that it is adequate and that it includes all available mitigation. In this case, the main issue is odor, of course.
Right.
So the City Council would need to be satisfied in order to adopt that environmental document, to certify that environmental document as adequate under CEQA. You would need to make findings that it includes all feasible mitigation for noise or for odor impacts. So it puts you in the driver's seat as the lead agency. Do you have complete control? Can you ensure that the odor impacts will be completely mitigated? No, but you have more control than you had previously.
So this environmental work that's going to be done, that they're going to pay for,
Right.
is going to have to produce a report that for this council satisfies us that the odor problem, which depending on who you talk to around here, even up to this point, may or may not have been addressed appropriately, is addressed appropriately.
up to and including new, improved, different, whatever word you want to put in there, measures to deal with it.
Correct. It's our understanding that Diamond has met with the Air District and has new technology that they want to implement, not only on the new line, the fourth line, but on all lines of this project. In order to do that, they need to have that process reviewed through the public review process that we use for all discretionary projects here in Ripon, right? So that we'll do a negative declaration or environmental impact report, whatever the consultant determines is necessary. But we won't just rely upon what Diamond says is effective mitigation. It may well be that what they're proposing is, but if it isn't, if there's other comments from the public or other agencies with expertise, or our consultant comes up with something different, the council will have the opportunity to independently evaluate all that information.
Okay. Because the one concern I have, which is what happened the first time, is it's all after the fact. In other words, we're going to do this. Everything we've looked at says it's going to work. We say it's okay, and then it doesn't. Or in some people's mind, it didn't. And we have no way of going back and doing anything about it.
Right. So here they would be applying to us for a site plan permit modification to add the fourth line, which is the project that you're then reviewing. Then we would go through what's called an initial study process. We would determine what type of environmental review document should be prepared, whether it's what's called a negative declaration or a full environmental impact report, or somewhere in between. And then we would hire consultants independently of Diamond. We would hire those consultants, which they would pay for. So what you have in front of you is, in terms of the agreement, is a cost recovery agreement, so that we don't end up spending our staff time and consultants' costs without being reimbursed for those.
So I think this is my last question, but at the point that you, the staff, begins to develop the process, this whatever for this study, does that come back to us so that we have a chance to voice our input as to whether we think it's adequate or not?
Well, what we would probably be doing at the beginning is we would retain the consultants to prepare the environmental document for us. Those contracts would come to the council. And then once that consultant's on board and begins the process, there would be a series, at least one and maybe more, public scoping meetings where we would ask the public to weigh in on the scope of the study. Is it broad enough? Does it cover everything that needs to be covered? Are there things that we haven't thought about? Traffic, noise, whatever. We know air quality, and we know odor, but are there other things that need to be studied? And then the consultant would take all that information and derive the scope of the study from there.
So there will be opportunities for the public to weigh in on
right.
this. Okay.
And then once the study is prepared, then it goes out and there's a notice of completion of that study, and then there would be another opportunity for public input when it comes before the Planning Commission and ultimately in front of the council, if that's the process that it takes.
Okay.
So it's just the beginning of the process.
Thank you.
So I have a question, because that answered some of my question, but the last question that I have is, this may all happen, they may spend a lot of money, and they understand that this is no approval at all. Everything can be turned down and they pay for it all, if that's
Correct.
what we decide, that it doesn't work.
Yeah, the last section of the agreement does provide for that.
Okay.
Nothing obligates the city to exercise its discretion on this project, favorably or unfavorably to develop. Whatever the process results in, that's what the council.
Right.
The key to this all is that the council, as by law, has to exercise what's called independent judgment on this. You can't take the applicant's material, and you can't take just something from the public and say, well, that sounds good enough to us. You have to understand it as best you can and exercise your own independent judgment on it. Does that make sense?
I understood all that. I just wanted to make sure, clarify it. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
We have a vote on the balance of the consent calendar.
I'll move that we approve 1.2 F, G, and H, 1.3A, and 1 point, whatever they were, 3A and 4C.
Mover. Passes with a 5-0 vote. And at this time, we would normally do the presentation of the proclamation. Is there anybody here from the Domestic Violence Awareness Month? Seeing nobody, we'll move on.
No, you have the Boy State thing.
Yes, we do, but I don't think, is everybody here from the Boy State yet? No? Okay, so we're going to move on with the meeting, and then when everybody shows up, somebody tip their hat at me or something, or Mike or whoever, and then we'll at the proper time, we'll do that proclamation. And we have some other things for that, too. So at this time, we have Resolution A. This resolution adopts the Labor Management Workers' Compensation Alternative Dispute Resolution Agreement between the City of Ripon and the Ripon City Employees Association. Kevin, is that you?
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor. The City of Ripon, like many other private employers and other cities, use the state's workers' comp system when we have employees who are injured on the job. We've noticed over the last few years that it's becoming very difficult to manage the process within that system. With the number of employees that we have, which is really functioning at a minimum level, as they go out, we try to get them back to work as quickly as possible. And with the state system now, it's been increasingly difficult to do that. That's left the employees who are injured, has left them frustrated. Also, the employees left behind who are covering for them and their responsibilities have become frustrated, obviously, along with management trying to meet the needs of the community with reduced staff. There's a couple cities that I've watched through our risk management pool that we're a part of that have gone to what they call a carve-out system. Essentially, what they're doing is carving out their own process to handle these workers' comp claims outside of the state system. City of Tulare, City of Madera, City of Fresno, and I believe City of Long Beach have all gone through this process. So we've been watching this for the last few years and talking to their administrators in those communities, as well as the employees that have been involved in that program. And so far what we've been hearing is very positive results. So just a couple things. If we are going to enter into this program, we can only do it with represented groups, essentially the unions that we have. Right now we have 3 unions, and we met with all of them talking about this option. One of the unions, the Public Works and the Public Works Foreman, have agreed to negotiate with the city to discuss what that carve-out program looks like. And we have gone through that process with the members of the union and created what we believe is an appropriate carve-out program for the City of Ripon that has been approved by the union and in front of the council tonight for their approval. If it is approved by the City Council tonight, we will submit that to the State Department of Industrial Relations for their review and their approval as well. And then once that's in place, we will form a joint labor management committee that will work on kind of the process that's been defined in the resolution before council tonight. The unions that were not at this time ready to discuss this type of program were both the Police Officers Association and the Ripon Sergeants Association. Both management and the Public Works groups have agreed to or have asked them to sit in on those meetings to watch that process, and hopefully they'll reconsider as time goes on. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got any questions for Kevin?
I have a comment. I'm going to read my notes that I put in the system when I first read this thing. From my experience at the county, this system is so archaic and inefficient, it lacks effectiveness. I know you can't put a cost to it, but the workman's comp system is absolutely in California a disaster, so I'm glad you were able to put something together that's, I mean, even though you may not be able to put a dollar on it, there's a cost involved, and who knows what that is. But I would say almost anything's better than our workman's comp situation. So I'm glad you looked at it. I'm glad we have a test case with Public Works, and we'll see how, hopefully we never have to test it, but I know we will. But thanks for doing it. Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
I have none. You ready for a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution.
Second?
Second.
I got it.
Mike, go for it.
I I beat you, sorry.
I know you didn't, even barely. It's because you're younger than I am, that's why.
Yeah, he's
Passes with a 5-0. Moving on to Resolution B. This resolution adopts the health and welfare benefits to be provided in 2018, including all the below. We won't read all that.
Including everything. This is the annual process we go through as we look at our health and welfare benefits we provide the employees. On this slide, I summarize the different plans that are offered. It's healthcare, the dental, the vision, chiropractic, life insurance, and disability. And the changes in total costs from calendar year 2017 to 2018. Essentially, the bottom line is we're going from just under $1.4 million to $1.45 million to 2018. So that accounts for just under a 5% increase to the city. Talking with Bohannon's Insurance, who helps us through this process, this is a very favorable year to the city compared to what they're seeing some of their other clients going through. Just a couple things to note, or probably the biggest part of this is we currently have Assurant Dental. So what you see on their 2017 cost there, the $110,000, that is the Assurant rental or Assurant Dental premium we currently have. When we requested the 2018 quote, there was a substantial increase from Assurant. Bohannon's went out and contacted other providers, and staff is recommending that we change to Premier Dental. We will experience an 8% reduction in cost by going to Premier Dental, and they've agreed for a 2-year rate guarantee with their 2018 premium. Back in 2013, the city was experiencing very significant premium increases with the Blue Shield plan that we had at the time. It was a gold plan. With those increases and trying to continue to provide a high level of benefit to the employees at the lowest cost that was possible, at that time the city council decided to go to a silver plan. So with the silver plan came a higher deductible that went along with that, but the city agreed to reimburse the employees for the deductible expenses that they experienced. So taking some of that risk on in order to receive the premium savings. So this slide is just a summary of how that has performed for the city since 2013. You can see we've typically been seeing about a $200,000 savings in premium by switching to the silver plan. Actually, for 2017, it was about $215,000 savings. And then the reimbursement cost over the years, and that again is the reimbursing employees for their deductible expenses, anywhere from $50,000 to $35,000. For 2017, we're on track. We're estimating, projecting to be just under $39,000. So this has worked out well and resulted in a pretty significant annual savings. Lastly, I think since 2014, the City Council has set a premium maximum for employees, for the Kaiser employees, that was $1,760 a month, and for the Blue Shield employees, it was $1,415 a month. So anything above those defined maximums would be shared between the city and the employees, so it's a 50-50 split. So this slide just summarizes the change in the premiums from 2017 to 2018 for the different employee classifications under both the Blue Shield and the Kaiser plan, and then what the employee responsibility is. Right now, for both Blue Shield and the Kaiser plans, only the employees that are enrolled under the employee plus family category have exceeded the defined premium maximum that I previously talked about. So those within Blue Shield, those employees within Blue Shield that are employee plus family will be responsible for just over $155 a month. That increased from $129 a month in 2017. And the city would pick up the remaining amount. For those within Kaiser, the employee would be responsible for just over $121 a month. That was an increase from $60 a month in 2017. So that would all begin on January 1st. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Like I mentioned before, the only change in providers would be with staff is recommending that we change from Assurant to Premier. And besides that, the remaining benefits provided to the employees remain the same.
Vice Mayor Mastuccio?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment, Kevin, on your page 143 in the packet. I think I say this every year, but sometimes there's different people in the audience. You know, you show here that you, and I wasn't on the council at the time, but I tell you, I applaud the council and whoever else did it at the time with going with a higher deductible and lowering the premium, saving $177,000 a year. And I think what's important for people to know is, even though government generally just wastes money away, this is just one aspect that the public probably sees. That you guys, I know for a fact, because I sit through meetings, that you guys are always looking for ways to really be efficient and save money where you can. $177,000 is a lot of money. So again, I applaud you and the council at the time that did that. I think that was a great move.
Any other questions? Call.
This has all been shared with the employees, so they know what's coming.
Yes.
Okay.
For the represented employees, this was included in their current memorandum of understandings, and then we have met with all unrepresented employees to walk through this with them.
Do you need a motion to accept this?
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we accept resolution number underlined as presented.
I'll second that.
Geez, now I get to vote.
Passes with a 5-0 vote. Okay, we want to call timeout?
Sure.
Okay. I guess we have 4 young gentlemen here. I'm going to do the proclamation first, and then you guys can do whatever you want to do. Does that work? Yes, sir. Okay. Are you working the 4 gentlemen right here? Come on, sir. Oh, do I need that?
Yeah.
My wife tells me I got a big mouth.
You do, but it's just not loud.
It's not loud.
Okay.
That sound like stereo.
Whereas always interested in building a better nation, the founders of the American Legion believe that such building must start first with an individual in his own community. And whereas one of the cardinal principles of the American Legion is to inculcate the sense of personal obligation to the community, state, and nation into the individual citizen, educating the citizen, young, old, and future, in his or her responsibility to be active in making the hometown a better place in which to live. And whereas since 1937, the American Legion Department of California has hosted a Boys State participatory program in which students become part of the operation of local county and state government. And whereas Ripon's Clinton McClaughlin Post 190 selected 4 outstanding young men from Ripon to attend this year's 80th session of California's Boys State, which held in Sacramento the week of June 17th through the 24th, 2017. And whereas these 4 young men participated in Boys State, activities include legislative sessions, court proceedings, law enforcement presentations, assemblies, bands, choruses, and recreational programs. And whereas these 4 young men have returned home better prepared to serve as citizens of Ripon, California, and the United States. Now, therefore, I, Dean Euchre, Mayor of Ripon, in the state of California, do hereby proclaim October 10, 2017, as Boys State Delegate Day in Ripon, and do urge all citizens to recognize the commitment of these young men into their community. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the official seal of the city of Ripon on this 10th day of October. With that, you must be related to Kevin's wife. Donovan Fontelis? I guess I should have shook your hand there too. Did you get your safe driver discount yet? Or his dad is, I should say. Roberto Hernandez. And Ty Wells. Thank you. Okay, and then, actually, that came from legislator, what's that? Who? Oh, Assemblyman Ford's office. And then I think, Dan's office is here. Are you going to come up? Go ahead, Mike.
Just Mayor Lane. For me, it's always not only an honor but a pleasure to be here with my friends from the city of Ripon and to be here on behalf of Congressman Jeff Denham. So I do have 4 certificates to present. They all are worded the same with the exception of the names, so I'm not going to read all 4 of them, but they do read as such. Certificate of Special Congressional Recognition, presented to, in this case, Trent Hawes. I've got all 4 of them here. Ripon High School. On behalf of the United States House of Representatives, I would like to honor you as a participant of the American Legion Boys State Program. This is an outstanding honor and one for which you deserve to be most proud. You are to be commended for your hard work and commitment. Congratulations and best wishes for your future. Signed, Congressman Jeff Denham, 10th District, California, 10 October 2017.
Thank you.
Trent Hawes. Congratulations. Ty Wells. Congratulations. Roberto Hernandez. Congratulations, Congressman Jeff Denham. Great job. Congratulations, man. Good job. Are we taking a picture or are we just...
Needs proof that he was here.
We'll take a picture of you, Mike, don't worry.
You probably should get a picture.
Please stay there. Yeah. Good afternoon, Mayor Euchre and members of the council. My name is Manuel Lopez. I am the current commander of the American Legion Post 190. Our post has sponsored Boys State for several years now. However, this is the first time, to anyone's knowledge, that the boys have been recognized by your city council. This is a wonderful opportunity for these young men to be recognized for the hard work that they went through. Very briefly, at Boys State, they learned the rights, privileges, and most importantly, the responsibilities of being an American citizen. The training is objective, that is, it's nonpartisan, and centers on the structure of city, county, and state government, but the intent is not to create a number of politicians. Lord knows we have enough of those. But again, to inculcate the responsibilities of being a responsible American citizen. These young men made an incredible commitment and spent a very rigorous week learning via hands-on processes about many aspects of government. It's a difficult achievement which helps them to form character that will ultimately lead to them being leaders of their community, wherever they may end up. And just to emphasize the type of person that gets selected to Boys State, I have 6 pages of names of individuals. I think you would recognize many of the names. I'm not going to read 6 pages of names, but I will pick on a few. One was Bill Gates. I'm sure all of you know that he is of Microsoft. Ron Rivera, the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Lou Dobbs, a TV anchorman. Some others are Tom Brokaw, also a TV anchorman. Rush Limbaugh. Phil Jackson, coach of the NBA, Chicago Bulls and other teams. Michael Jordan, who some of you might recognize that name. How about John Bon Jovi? He was a Boys State recipient, as well as Neil Armstrong. The reason I point these names out, Mr. Mayor, council members is because that's the intent of Voice State, is to create people that are responsible and will help their community in whatever needs to be done. These individuals, who, by the way, I would like to recognize that their parents, most of their parents are here with them tonight, have a commitment to do that. And I'm looking forward to seeing wonderful things from these young men in the future. And I do thank you tremendously, Mr. Mayor and council members, for giving them the opportunity to be recognized tonight. I do have in addition to the certificates provided by you, the post, and Congressman Denham and Assemblymember Flora, I do have baseball caps for each of the members. And if you don't mind, because I hate to jump over here, if you don't mind walking up and... Oh, thank you. As a reminder, in addition to the certificates of your participation, and just personally, I would like to say how proud I am of every one of you. Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, thank you.
You're welcome. Great job, man. Okay, you guys can probably leave if you want to. Good time to go.
Yeah, but the good part's
And your parents and your young grandparents. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on to public hearing 2018, the Health and Welfare Plan for the City Council. I guess that's you, Kevin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is a requirement in the municipal code that the city council is to hold a public hearing prior to increasing the health benefits to the city council members.
Do we need to, anybody have any discussions? Oh, okay. Does anybody from the public wish to make a comment? Seeing none? Any discussion?
There's a recommended action.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation as presented.
Come on.
I'll second it.
There, yeah. That beat you. Now you're naked. Oh.
Second it.
I got to work on you to get your name in the minutes.
It passes with a 5-0. Okay. 3B, General Plan Text Amendment. Ken?
I'll take this one. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Mayor, fellow council members. As you recall, earlier in 2017, we did go through a presentation with the City Council regarding kind of historical and present and upcoming residential growth. As you may remember, at that time, the council directed staff to kind of pursue two items. One was to put together an annexation policy, and the second item was to come up with a hard cap for building permits and a time period on permit issuance. The first one took place in May of 2017. The City Council did adopt Resolution 1723, which was annexation policy for any property that would be annexed into the City of Ripon, setting policies and procedures and guidelines in place that we would look at for annexing property. The second one did take a little bit of time because of required notifications, but we did embark on a general plan amendment to update the language in the growth accommodation land use and growth accommodation chapter of the general plan. That's what's in the staff report here for you this evening. As you recall, we did set the growth cap at a 3% max. It used to be anywhere between 3 and 6%. So we did set it at a 3% max with issuing out 2.5% and keeping a half of it for buffer permits. That way we wouldn't have years where we would have permits spiking and going over that cap rate. So that's what's in the staff report here for you this evening. Also, there is a one of the policies in that chapter, policy A8, had to be amended as well to reflect that 3% growth cap. So that's in the staff report as well. At the September 18th Planning Commission meeting, they did hold a public hearing on this issue, an item, and nobody from the public came forward at that time to voice any concerns. So this is a public hearing this evening to allow the public to comment on this item. And after that, there is a resolution to adopt. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, with that, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this item? close that. And comments? Anybody? Or
I have one question. I want to make sure that I understand the relationship of the 3% and the 2.5%. The absolute cap is 3%. We will allocate up to 2.5%. And then that 0.5% is a cushion, so that assuming a developer had 15 to do 1 year, got 12 of them done, he could come back and say, can I have the other 3 next year? And if there's room in the 5%, he could have it. But if we are at the 3, he's out of luck.
Right, and so the objective there would be to have them apply for those buffer permits by the end of January in a given year, and at the February meeting, staff would bring forth a recommendation to council of how to allocate out those permits. If there is some room in there to allocate out permits, there could be years where they ask for more than what's available, and we would have to council would have to make some judgment calls on who those permits would go to.
Well, and by the same token, if you brought that to us and we made a decision that took us to the 3, 2 months later, somebody rolls in to the building department, wants to build their own house on their own lot, they'd have to wait.
Correct. Typically, what you're seeing, though, like you would see with a single residential lot in town, is something that would have gone through a development agreement to create that custom residential lot. So those are permits that would come before you guys anyways, and they would be accounted for within the allocation schedule.
But it is possible that somebody could get turned down at some point.
You're correct.
Okay.
well, I mean, but didn't we have, like, about a year or two ago, we had, remember, there was a bunch of filler houses that needed to be done. I believe Wilbur and Artman did that. Wasn't that, like, was that already grandfathered in? Because, we don't want to leave spotty neighborhoods with vacant lots.
Well, obviously, we didn't have this policy in place at that time, so that they were able to finish them out.
Yeah, but remember that there was,
And if the council so desires in a given year, they can always hold back 5 or 10 permits just for that individual that might come in and want to build a house too. I mean, that's solely up to your discretion on how to allocate out the buffer permits in any given year.
Okay, Mike.
So I have a question. So they have until the end of January, you said, to come in. So what are you going to do if 3 or 4 builders come in and they all ask for 10? I mean, you going to just allocate them out evenly? I mean, what do you do so that I think you ought to have a process in place so you're not stuck in the middle of making an arbitrary kind of decision for your benefit.
Right, and that's something we've discussed a little bit, is maybe looking at the size of the development in comparison to a percentage of the developments that are out there. So if you have a larger development, that's say 50% of the building permits, they might get 50% of the buffer allocation and just do it on a percentage basis.
So everybody's going to get something. It's just a matter of what. Okay.
If they're available, yeah.
Well, I'm saying if they're available, if there's 10 available and 50 apply, all those builders most likely will get something. One may get 1, may get 2, but it's going to be a percentage. So at least you've got the process in place.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I think that what I remember, you have to go back about 10 years to when building was going crazy here. And we had this system, the city had this system in place. And I can remember sitting here on nights with the council, and the city planner he had a chart that went out 4 and 5 years where he had buildings, houses stretched out, and builders knew that walking in, that you may be asking for approval, you might be waiting a year before you can even put your first foundation down. I don't think we'll ever get there, but the reason I like going this route is it gives you the tools to begin to plan that way, rather than we're playing catch up all the time because we've let it get out of control.
Well, you're correct, and you can actually potentially be there. You guys are going to be looking at 2 residential projects coming in November. Actually stretches the permits out to 2020.
Right.
So in 2019, pretty much with the projects that we have currently being built right now, if you add those 2 to it as well, we could be hitting 3% on those couple of years. So somebody coming in the door could be looking at 2021 at this point.
I remember what Leo's talking about. I mean, his spreadsheet went around the corner.
Oh, huge.
It was long. But I want to understand it. So why wouldn't, if you have 5 builders come in and each one asks for 10 permits, based on the size of the project. Why wouldn't everybody get something? If it's based on percentage, maybe they get 0.5, but everybody's going to be allocated something.
They would. Like
Okay.
I said, ultimately, it's council's decision to
Well, I know, but I
decide.
heard that no, not everybody's necessarily going to get it. Everybody on mathematically will get something that's based on
Mathematically, yes.
percentage. Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay, we'll call for a motion.
I'll move to approve the resolution.
Second, I like it.
I guess I won't speak.
I'm going to go in as you next time.
We're waiting for you to vote, Jake.
Well, that's all right. You didn't recognize me to speak, so that's okay.
Oh, well, you know what? The button, it doesn't come up on my screen anymore.
I click speak.
Does it come, oh, you know what? I think it comes.
No,
It's speakers.
Where? Oh, okay, Mike Restuccio, that's who's up.
your name's not on there.
Well,
Sorry.
yeah, because I unclicked it.
What?
'Cause
Okay,
Dean-
would
'cause
you
the-
like to speak?
No, I was just.
Okay, well, I don't want to make you feel like you didn't get your
Well, no.
opportunity.
What I was just going to say is, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see housing demand being stretched out for 3 or 4 years because of what I've seen of Bay Area housing prices and what they consider affordable and the amount of job growth that happens in that area. People are going to continue to look over here. And there is going to be at least one person in the family who is willing to bite that bullet just because of the affordability issue. So I'm glad we have those growth caps in place now, because in 2020, I mean, I could foresee that, yeah, you do have builders walking in knowing, yeah, it might be 3 or 4 years down the road, but the payment's going to be worth it because demand is going to continue to increase. So that was going to be my comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for recognizing me to speak.
Not a problem.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jay. Thank you so much for the information.
Moving on. Okay, ordinances 4A. This ordinance amends Chapter 8.24, Section 8.2.050B to provide clarity regarding building permit requirements. I'm guessing that's you again, Ken?
Yeah, actually, as we were going through the ordinance a month or so back, we did notice a section in there that, believe it or not, if anybody wishing to grow marijuana or cannabis in compliance with the law within the city of Ripon first had to get a permit from the building department to do such, which I think was a mistake when it was written. So Ted didn't want to get in the business of having to give permits out for anybody wishing to do that. I think the intent of that was to basically say that if anybody was going to construct or alter or repair or perform additions to their structure to be able to grow marijuana or cannabis in compliance with state law, they would have to get a building permit to do so. So that's the way the language change is in the ordinance.
That's what the ordinance says now.
Yes. So this is the first reading and introduction for that amendment.
Okay, so we don't need to vote on this.
Yeah, we do.
We do? Wait a minute. First, let me check and see if Mr. Parks would like to have anything to say about
I'd like Mr. Parks to make the motion this time.
Thank you very much. I don't have anything to say, but I will be the first one to make the motion.
Okay, there we go. It's open.
Click it. I didn't know if anybody else had anything to say. I was being polite.
We can still talk after you make the motion.
Apparently we can now.
We're got to vote, boys.
You did.
Oh, okay. Passes with a 5-0. Okay, discussion items, 5A, bicycle pedestrian and safe routes to school program. Is that Mr. Peace?
Yeah, that's me,
Mr.
me,
Meese.
Mr. Mayor.
Saw that badge on your, that fake badge.
So this is a follow-up to the Measure K renewal bike ped competitive program, which was discussed at the meeting in September. The action the council took last meeting authorized staff to proceed with the Lower Stanislaus River Bike Trail project, which connects the bike path currently behind the sewer ponds into the bike path near the bike bridge on the other side of Highway 99. So since that meeting and then prior to the adoption of the program by SJCOG, two elements of the funding have changed. One is the city is now eligible to receive $20,000 in funding from the program for grant writing assistance. The second portion is that, or section of it, is that there's kind of a set aside of $4 million within the program that will be allocated to cities of less than 200,000 in population for projects that are $500,000 or less. So that basically excludes Stockton from applying for those. If those funds aren't used, Stockton would then be eligible to go after that. They still have to submit quality projects, but it's kind of giving an opportunity for these smaller cities to put in more projects and hopefully have the opportunity to compete a little bit better with them. So due to those changes, we are recommending that the city expand on that original proposed project and then also add an additional project to apply for within the program. So first, the expanded portion of the original proposed project is shown on that attached map. That expanded portion is 3,800 feet of the Class 1 bike path along the Stanislaus River. It's behind the Jacktone Golf Course there. And so with this project and the original proposed project, it kind of connects in the entire bike path. It pretty much paves the entire bike path along the Stanislaus River on the west side of Highway 99 within the city limits. And that would increase the estimate that we currently have at $350,000. It would go up to $500,000. And then the second project, which is also shown on the attached map, is another Class 1 bike path sidewalk on Doak Boulevard. It's basically filling in a gap along Doak Boulevard. It's a 12-foot sidewalk or bike path along the south side of Doak Boulevard. It goes from the city fueling station to the city courtyard. That actually ties in, it's not shown on the map, but it ties into a Class 2 bike path, which is on Doak Boulevard, and then back into a Class 1 along Doak Boulevard all the way out to Moeller Avenue. So,
Am I reading this right? And it goes down Stockton Street?
currently, that's the red section there. That's the existing path.
Oh, it does?
The blue
That's
part's
there.
what they're gonna do.
This is
and
Stockton.
that.
This is Stockton right here, right?
Yep.
That's already there?
No, Stockton ends here. This is Doak. This
Oh,
is down on the river.
Okay, all right, now I see what you're, but there's a bike path on Stockton, I'm sure.
Well, it's only a portion of that. It's right where Doak kind of turns
Yeah.
into Stockton there, and then it stops.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking out of box that we could do this Stockton Street, finish it out and do all that, and could we do that? with
Turn
that-
Stockton into a bike path?
Pretty much. Is there some way we could do that to make that all work?
Not with this funding, but we do have funding currently available for Stockton Avenue. We're looking to get some more funding, though, to finish out that project.
Yeah, right.
as well.
Okay, well, I mean, that Stockton Street that's a real eyesore. And that's a really busy road. It's probably maybe our busiest road in town almost. And it's probably the worst road in town. Well, anyway, okay.
And the other final thing that's in the staff report is just both the applications are due December 15th, so we're kind of on a short time frame here. And then there's a services agreement with Interwest Consulting Group for $19,420. They would help us with the grant writing applications and assistance with that. And then both these projects would seek full funding through the program, as well as the consultant agreement. Obviously, it's under the $20,000 that we're going to be able to get. So our recommendations are to, one, expand the lower Stanislaus River Bike Ped project to include that western portion behind Jacktone Golf, submit the additional Doak Boulevard Bike Path Sidewalk project, and then approve the services agreement with Interwest Consulting Group. And with that, I could answer any questions.
I have one question.
Go ahead, Mr. Zuber.
Looking at the map, Councilman DeGraff at the last meeting mentioned that, I think it was a lower loop be left unpaved, and I notice it's not on the, are we going to do that then?
No, we eliminated that, and so it's only the kind of that upper portion.
Right, okay. All right.
But with all this funding, how much are we looking out of pocket money?
Nothing.
Zippo. And if
Well,
we did have to come up with money, would it come out of the Kai's money? Not, well, he can't afford to be giving of his money, but I mean, the recreation.
No, for the projects that we're submitting, they're under $500,000. There's no match requirement. But I will say this: there's $53,000, I believe, or $56,000 that the city is getting, and we're using that to try and leverage our grant, trying to make it a little bit more competitive. on this project. If we should fail at getting these 2 grants, we would still have that $56,000, which we can carry over and possibly use with other funds that we receive for another project later on down the road.
Cool.
Plus, this isn't the only time this is going to happen.
No.
There is, I think it's $65 million that has to be spent out of Measure K money for bike and pedestrian projects. So at least 2 more times, this same $20 million is going to be made available between now and 2040. So, I mean, with it, if we don't get it, and I think they have a darn good chance of getting it, but if we don't, we'll at least know where we stand with everybody else, and the next time it shows up, we'll just go after it again.
We don't vote on this, right?
Yeah, you have to vote on it to approve the project and the contract.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
And that passes with a 5-0. So moving on to reports. Chief,
Nothing to report.
you don't want to report on your last weekend's car show?
I could if you'd like me to. This past Saturday, we had
I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and drop my kid off to help you guys work.
Yes, this past weekend, we had a emergency car show that we partner with Menlo Park Police Department, held at the community center. There's approximately 140 entrants into the car show. It's also a recruitment fair for many of the surrounding law enforcement agencies. It was a tremendous event, great support. It is one of our annual fundraisers for our volunteers and police services. They did exceptionally well this year, so they use that money to fund community events and other activities within the community. So it was a great event for all. Everybody enjoys the car show and the Code 3 parade. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, Ted, we'll pass you, move on to Kai.
No, I want to hear about water.
Oh, we don't need to hear those reports again. All right, go ahead, Ted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last month's September's water use was down 14.5% from 2013. Our running average now is 29.3% for running average. So it is, a reduction is going down. I was in a Public Works Directors meeting last month, and several other cities are having the same issue. So 2 reported they were at like 4%. So they were doing better than some or most. But it's I don't know if it's the hotter weather or just people realize, excuse me, people realize we're out of the drought and aren't reducing as much. So
You still have a water guy running around though?
yes, we do. He works 30 hours a week. He's focusing. He's driving around, putting door hangers on folks that aren't and sending violations for those that are repeat offenders, along with watching for people watering wrong times, wrong days, and that sort of thing. And we still are citing and putting out citations.
You know what, you might, I was, I think it was like 3 weeks ago, I went to Ace Hardware, and I found out that they told me there that the city uses this spray that I put on my yard that goes down into the grass and your plants, and then it helps hold the water in there. We need to get that news out, because I put that on my front yard and it seems to really have helped. And I guess we've been doing that.
We have during the last couple of years of the drought, we were using it. A product called Moisture Manager. There's a couple products that we experimented with. It's not cheap.
I was going to say, well, it cost me $30 to do my front yard, but in the long run, it'll pay for itself, because hopefully my water bill should go down, right?
We'll see.
I did pay $400 to have my yard. And I don't know if it worked or not.
Your yard looks beautiful, so it must have worked. Are you done, Ted?
Let me just say, it does work. However, folks need to watch how much they're putting on at the same time, or else it doesn't. So
It's not effective. Yeah,
I have one thing.
Okay.
Are we through with the free trash pickup program for this year?
Yes, that ended September.
Could we get some sort of a report of how many days, how much stuff, and I'd just like to see how that worked.
That'd be nice to see, yeah.
Yeah, we can get that for next meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick report on the progress on the golf course. We know we had the flooding and a lot of damage to the back nine, and so they've been working since the flooding went down. They're probably 75 to 80% on redoing it. So 9 holes are open, which means, you know, the back 9 is closed. They redid all the tee box, or most of the tee boxes that were damaged and all of the greens that were damaged, cut down a bunch of the trees that died or you know, were knocked over, and they're trying to level out and sand, and they're going to go past it. We were a little concerned because when they redid some of the fairways, the greens and the tee boxes, we came back with some 100-degree weather. Thought it might kill it, but I was out there today, and they're coming in pretty well. I think they were hoping that come October, November, it would be open, but they're not. They look good, but they're not ready to play on. So probably going to take a cautious approach, and they probably won't reopen that back 9 until, you know, next March, more than likely. But it does look a whole lot better than it did. If anyone wants a tour, let me know. I'll set it up, and you can go look at it. But I would say they're about 75, 80% along the way.
Ken?
Yeah, just a really quick, Monday night, we have a planning commission meeting that's got a couple housing projects on it for the North Point, so I don't think it's, the city attorney can weigh on this. It's probably not a Brown Act violation if you guys want to come and sit in on the audience and listen to the planning commission meeting, but a couple important projects coming our way, and that's going to be in front of the city council at the November meeting, so just give you a heads up.
James?
Yeah, I just wanted to report the Stockton Avenue parking lot project is almost complete. It's open now. And next week or two, they'll finish up the trash enclosure structure, and that was it. So.
Looks good.
Want to get all the signs taken away?
Yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah.
Are we going to close the other parking? Yes. Because, yeah, okay. All right.
You did a great job, by the way.
Yes, you
on
did.
time, on budget. You kept them moving. Congratulations. That's not an easy thing to coordinate.
I was out there every day yelling at
Yeah.
those people.
It looks great.
Thank you, Dean.
Kevin,
Thank you, Mr.
Kevin
Mayor.
was even out there, I think, once when I was out there. Mr. Terpstra?
My brief summer vacation is over.
Just say, hey, 6 weeks? 6 weeks?
It was a brief, it was a lousy fishing year, but a good crabbing year, so I know y'all appreciate that. The council did also meet before this meeting in closed session. I need to report out on that. Got a budget update of the budget surplus and some staffing information that will be decided at a subsequent meeting, so there's no other reportable action. That's all I have.
Mr. Warner?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Parks?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Zuber?
Did we sell the 4th Street house? I didn't make it to the drawing, so I don't know.
Yes, we did. It's currently going through loan processing and escrow right now, so it should hopefully close within 30 to 60 days.
Thank you.
One happy couple and 7 unhappy.
Were they funded and everything? Did everything went okay?
They're working, I think, with Ability Mortgage here in town, so I think they're getting through the process now.
Cool. You know, actually, I want to make a comment on that.
Not your turn.
I'm talking about that. I'm why was that person selected or able to be selected when they didn't even live in Ripon? Was there a connection there? Because my personal feeling would, as I was thinking, that you had to be a Ripon person or work in Ripon.
I might leave that one for the city attorney. I think last time we looked at that program, we could not preclude people.
And not that, you know what I'm saying, though. It would have been really nice if it would have been. Yeah, you can't, so you can't do it. Yeah, that answers my question.
There's limitations on that, of
Yeah,
course.
so we got to be careful. Okay,
Yeah.
that answers it. But okay, Daniel.
Nothing really other to report, other than thank you for the members of the public here, as always. That's about it.
Vice Mayor Restuccio?
Nothing to report?
And I just want to report one thing. I need to meet with the chief and Kai and Kevin and the vice mayor for a short little discussion after this meeting. With that, we'll close this part of the meeting. And we'll open up the successor agency.
Oh, that's right. God. Where is,
What do we got to do?
you gotta close. What if you don't remember your password?
Well, then we'll read it to you.
I don't know.
Do we put our PW in first?
It's a digital boardroom, right? The other one?
How come you guys can't do all this from over there?
I did digital, but it will not allow me to get my name.
I didn't do anything.
Oh, it just came out.
Takes longer to log in than that even. Oh, well, somebody will be laughing.
It came out.
They will go.
There we go.
You know, it takes
What?
longer to get hooked up.
I know it is. I'm trying to delete this.
Can I help you?
Well, why wouldn't it just delete?
Somebody takes Dean's order. He does.
Because you got numlock on, Dean, that's why you probably get the period.
Did you say dumb lock or num lock?
Well, normally it's a numlock.
Number.
For you,
Now, Mike.
no, for you it's numlock too.
Show your respect to senior citizens, young man. Okay, we're open up the Ripon Redevelopment Successor Agency for Tuesday, October 10th. Roll call. Ms. Lisa.
Director Daniel DeGraff. Jake Parks.
Here.
Leo Zuber.
Here.
Vice Chairman Mike Restuccia.
Present.
Chairman Dean Euchre.
Here.
Wait. Somebody didn't change the thing.
Yeah, I see that now too.
I told you this template.
Way to go, Tricia.
We have Chairman Jacob Tubbs and
Yeah, you don't want to get Jake in charge.
Jacob.
Okay, we'll open up to public discussion. Anybody from the public want to speak about the successor meeting? You sure? We don't want to get home too early. We'll close public discussion. Approval of the minutes.
What'd you guys do? Plot down there?
Do the thingy up top.
I hit
I
it.
don't have it.
I don't have the vote. It's grayed out.
Let me hit it again. There we go. Had to double click.
People.
Passes with a 5-0. Moving on. Consent calendar.
So moved.
U.S. Bank. Whatever.
Man, I wish I owned stock in U.S. Bank.
And that passes with a 5-0. With that, we will adjourn. Have a nice week.
How about month?
Good stuff, man. Pretty fast.